Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Knights of the Roundball Table. This is a show that brings together some of the brightest minds in Bulls Nation. And tonight, the Knights that we have today, James Kim. James, how you doing tonight, brother?
Good, Fred. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Very excited to be on the podcast here tonight.
You're the youngest member of the Knights tonight. We have two wise men also joining us. So I wanted to balance out youth with wisdom. Not that you're not wise, but you're very.
I like it. You know, definitely.
Sounds good. Also, older brother to the famous Big Dave, Bulls outcast outsider, John Watson. John, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Fred, and I like how you just took license to call Tim and I old. But that was good.
Well,
really excited to be on with everybody.
I can't tell you how honored I am to have you on, John. Many conversations I've had with you, it's obvious where Dave gets all his copious amounts of basketball knowledge. So thanks for joining the Knights tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
And finally, basketball historian, one of the finest minds in the basketball world, scout from the West Coast, the beautiful state of California, Tim Gallagher. Tim, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Fred, and I wanted to let you know that Knights is a very appropriate nickname for our group because I was an altar knight in high school. That was our school mascot, and I kind of paved the way for a guy named John Paxson to follow in my footsteps. I mean, he had a little better career than I did, but we were the altar knights, so Knights is an appropriate basketball term here for our group.
Yes, well, I know you're good friends with John, who's a great man, and it's an honor. Good old number 5, it's an honor to have you on the show tonight. The sheer amount of basketball knowledge here tonight is enough to light up a small city. So I want to call to order. Hear ye, the Knights of the Roundball Table has come to order. The first topic, the first question is, issue number 1, to trade or keep Lauri. The best stretch of basketball this season for the Bulls has oddly coincided with the absence of Lauri Markkanen. Should the Bulls trade him before the deadline and move Patrick Williams into his power forward number 4 position, or keep him and support his development into a solid NBA power forward? I want to start out with you, Tim, on this one. What say you?
Sure. Well, I'm a big Lauri fan, as you know, from our many podcasts over the years, and had a little closer look at him on the West Coast, his 1 year at Arizona in the Pac-12. And I'm not sure what happened over the last, let's say, year and a half or so with his development. I don't know if it's physical, mental, some combination of those, but I just think his talent is too good to pull the plug on him at this point. And plus the trade value that they get for him, I can't imagine would be worthy. The other thing is, I want to really see how he develops under Karnisovas and Billy Donovan as the Bulls executive team. You know, when I think of what Billy Donovan did in OKC with Gallinari and how well he played under Billy and in that system, you know, I'm envisioning Lauri to be at least at that talent level. So my vote is to keep him, and let's see how he develops under this new regime, because I think the talent's there. I'm not sure why that's kind of gotten off the track, but I still think there's a lot of potential with him.
John, do you agree with Tim's assessment, or would you like to go in a different direction?
No, I'd have to agree. I'm anxious to see how he performs under the new regime also, and I'm especially anxious to see how he performs surrounded by more veterans. You know, he was kind of the veteran before, he and Zach. But now, you know, with the additions we have with Temple and, you know, Young's playing well, Otto Porter's back, and the coaching staff where you have Billy Donovan and Maurice Cheeks on the sidelines. And, you know, that's a lot of basketball wisdom and a lot of great basketball influence around him. So I hope what they can do for Lauri is not only to inspire him to be better, but also to give him a little more toughness. You know, I've always joked about Lauri saying that we should go drop him off on the west side somewhere and let him find his way home. But I think these guys, this new regime is actually going to help him do that, and particularly the rest of the team, because they look totally different as a basketball team right now. So I would certainly agree with Tim.
James, you concur?
I would have to. I like what they say about Lauri. I have to agree. He has a lot of talent. His upside is extremely high. Unfortunately, this season is a COVID related injury, obviously, so it's not really a physical injury. But in his first 3 seasons, he's missed 14 in his first season, 30 in his second, and then 15 in his third season, which is only out of 65 games because of the COVID halt of last season. So, I mean, I would have to agree with Tim in a sense of his value might not be high, but I would also have to say that, because Lauri is known to be a high value, high ceiling guy, has just been injury prone. I think he still does have value. And I think where we really need help is our point guard, our point guard position and our deficiency in there. So if we can get even someone like Kyle Lowry, right? Toronto seems like they're on the downside, Fran VanVleet is the new cornerstone of their point guard, of their guard. Obviously, you see Lauri. Age is coming. Obviously, it's a different point of his career, but veteran presence. Being able to really, develop Kobe hopefully as well to be a winner. He's won a championship in the recent years, and even Kyle Lowry had his struggles in the playoffs in his first, few years in Toronto. He was really, really bad, but being able to play with Kawhi, being able to have the experience, I think he can really do a lot of good mentally for these younger players as well.
Yeah. So the poll that I put up had over 800 votes. And I've never had a poll that split the fan base like this one. Trade Lauri had 34%, keep Lauri had 34%, and I don't know had 32%. I'd say the correct answer is I don't know. But between now and the trade deadline, we really need to find out what we have in Lauri Markkanen. We can't wait much longer. He's going to be he's going to be a restricted free agent next year. And with all the space that many of these teams have, it's entirely possible he can get a ridiculous offer from some team that we won't be willing to match. So, a lot's going to depend on how he performs from this point forward.
Yeah, I seem to remember Bill Cartwright never being hurt until Patrick Ewing came along, and then when he was traded to the Bulls, he was never hurt either. So maybe this new regime helps Lowry in that regard as well. Sometimes that change is really what they need. But I would say there's probably a shorter leash than there was before.
Absolutely. And I think but also this it's clear the coaching staff has been more supportive to Lauri. In the first 3 games, they put him in positions to succeed. I thought he played very well at a high level. So it's clear that they're trying to make the best out of his skill set. If he doesn't fail, it's on him. It's not on the coaching staff. You can't blame it on Boylan because these guys Billy Donovan and his staff know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. On the topic number 2.
Issue number 2, who will be left out? It's clear that Billy Donovan likes to go with a 9, at most 10-man rotation. With at least 12 players deserving PT, who will be left out when the team is at full strength? It will likely come down to Denzel Valentine, Daniel Gafford, Chandler Hutchinson.
I'll start out with you on this one, John. And again, it's obvious that, the starters, it's obvious who, the first 7 players are. But I think this team really has about 12 players that deserve time, and they're not going to get it, right? Unfortunately, there's too many good players on this, or fortunately, depending how you look at it, there's too many good players on this team. Who do you think, let's say Billy goes with 10 players, which I think he's even pushing it for him. Who do you think are the 10 guys that are going to play in a rotation when we're at full strength?
Well, right now, I went back and forth with this a few times. But of course, you've got, Patrick Williams, Wendell Carter Jr., Kobe White, Zach LaVine. I would say Thaddeus Young. Garrett Temple, I've really come to like his presence out there. Otto's kind of a question, but I would say Otto Porter. I think Satoransky, particularly given our challenges at point guard, because he seems to be a little more relaxed as a point guard, a little more mature as a point guard. And then I would say Daniel Gafford. I know my brother absolutely loves Daniel Gafford, and I'm in that camp too. I think he's also going to be one that benefits from coaching. So what is that? Is that 9 or 10 I gave? I think I gave 9.
Well, that would noticeably leave out Denzel Valentine, who I think has played at exceptionally high level.
He has.
My favorite.
He has, and there's going to be some tough choices. I guess I'm also wondering if Otto Porter is actually going to be around. to be honest with you. There's been a lot of talk about trading him and what you might be able to get for him. So I kind of went back and forth on that one because I like Denzel Valentine, and I think he got a raw deal the last couple of years, just kind of languishing on the bench. So that was a tough one. That was a tough one for me. And if I had to do it again, I'll probably say Denzel Valentine. And then if you ask me again, I'll probably switch it again. So
okay, sounds good. How about you, Tim? What do you think? I think this is going to be a really tough decision for Billy Donovan.
It is. Well, and just really looking at the roster and trying to create a depth chart, it's it's an interesting mix. Their talent level varies a little bit, but I kind of lump Temple, Valentine, Porter, and Hutchinson. That's almost the same player in my view. Yeah. Kind of now the talent level, obviously, and experience level is different, but I think you have four guys that are kind of performing a similar role. I was hoping Denzel would evolve into a Garrett Temple, at least in the league, and they wouldn't have to have acquired somebody like Garrett Temple, and again, maybe Denzel's on his way there. I know he's had some bad luck with injuries and things as well. I kind of envision Hutchinson one day, if things went well, evolving into a Garrett Temple type player. So obviously Hutchinson's kind of the odd man out, though, based on experience and proven success on an NBA court. It's really tough. I can see Satoransky fitting into a Billy Donovan type system. You've got to have that veteran presence with Thaddeus Young and Porter. So, boy, it's tough. The other thing that's been a good problem, I guess, and Fred, you and I talked a little bit about this earlier, is how Patrick Williams has been such a pleasant surprise. I didn't know, I had no idea he would be this ready this soon. And, I kind of compare him to like a Paul Millsap, kind of an old spirit, old soul player, right out of the gate, right? He looks so comfortable on an NBA floor, playing against even against LeBron, right? There was no deer in the headlights, it's almost like bring it on, man. I'll guard him. It's kind of like watching when Anunoby was just kind of emerging with Toronto. It kind of jumped off the screen at me how eager he was to guard LeBron, right? I mean, it's a tough task, but he wasn't backing down. And I see Williams being the same way. So I wouldn't have expected him to be a locked-in starter, this early, right? So I guess that's a good problem now, because what do you do with some of the other veterans who have, different contract situations? Yeah, obviously, Zach, Kobe, Wendell Carter Jr., Williams, and then, Markkanen is my top five with, Gafford is a good substitution for WCJ at the five. You could even slide Lauri into the five and play small some, I think. So I like the versatility of those guys. I don't know if I'm answering your question, Fred. It's tough. Other than Hutchinson,
it is a tough question.
I'm not as enamored with Satoransky personally, so I'll put him as my other guy out. So I'll go Hutchinson and Satoransky if I had to ultimately limit it to 10.
Okay, James.
Yeah, I would have to agree. This is probably the hardest question that I was kind of preparing for, in a sense, and looking at the roster and looking at the way that I look at it. Obviously, we did the starting five for me. It was hard because I truly believe that Lauri or Kobe should be coming off the bench. I think we have enough off, especially what, like Tim said, because of the just pleasant surprise that Patrick Williams was and has been this season. We have a lot of offensive threats in the starting lineup. I don't think we need more. And my choice to kind of put on the bench just for winning scenario, not what we talked about before about Lauri, but just putting Lauri on the bench and having him come off and being the focal point off the second unit and bringing some offense and fire and spark into the lineup. I think along with limiting his minutes because of his health concerns would be a great rotation in a winning perspective. But, if we're looking to see what we have with Lauri and, time is running out, it might not be the best option to limit his minutes and really just, let him loose and see what we really have with Lauri. But ultimately, in my opinion, the second unit, this one was tough. It would have to be centered around Lauri. My starting five was Kobe, Zach, Patrick, Otto Porter Jr., and then Wendell Carter Jr., obviously. And then it would probably be with Denzel, Chandler Hutchinson, Lauri Markkanen, Daniel Gafford. And then I would have to put in, I like Ryan Archie at Diacono over Thomas Satoransky, to be honest.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mistake.
I really don't like Satoransky at all.
This is your youth coming in.
No, not at all. Satoransky, I watched him in Wizards. Like I play fantasy basketball. I watched him because he was like when John Wall went down, he was the focal point with Bradley Beal. So I was watching him for a long time on the Wizards. When we signed him, I thought it was the worst signing. He was god awful on the Wizards. I don't know what we saw in him. People were excited that we had some size in the point guard position when we signed him, but what I saw from the Wizards, and then what I've seen on the Bulls in the past year and a half, yeah, he seems more composed because of the experience and just being of age. But besides that, I just don't see the value that he's bringing. He's not that great defensively. Yeah, he brings up assists here and there, but I mean, honestly, I haven't really seen anything that, at least with Ryan Arcidiacono, he brings energy.
Oh,
in my opinion.
And a man bun. Well, the correct answer is
he got a man bun. Is that why you're hating, Fred?
It's definitely not.
You did just get that though.
It's definitely not the answer. Sato's going to be in rotation, whether we like it or not. I agree. I understand. Tim and James. You don't like Sato, but it's clear he's averaging 6 assists and put in the role of backup point guard. I think he does that pretty well. And I think when he's healthy again, he was playing at a pretty decent level, I thought, before he went into the COVID protocol. There's 12 players that definitely should be considered for the rotation. That's Wendell Carter Jr., Lauri Markkanen, Otto Porter Jr., Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Thaddeus Young, Denzel Valentine, Chandler Hutchinson, Patrick Williams, Garrett Temple, Sato, Daniel Gafford. Those are the 12. So it comes down to Daniel Gafford, Chandler Hutchinson, Denzel Valentine. Those are the 3 players that are battling for that last, 10th spot. And I think the answer has to be Denzel Valentine. He's shooting 43.3% from 3. This is the best I think he's played in a Bulls uniform. I think he's really had a great year so far. And I think, I do like Gafford, but, you can go with Lauri at the backup center position, go small. You can even actually have Thad Young play a little bit at center when you go small. I think that's going to be the decision. I think they're going to go in that direction. And unfortunately, him and Chandler are going to be the odd guys out. I like Chandler Hutchinson a lot too. I think he's probably one of our better answers defensively on the perimeter. So it might be, situational decisions where Chandler will play when they need him on the defensive side, but when they want a little bit more offense, they go with Denzel. But I think that's probably the right way to go. Any other comments on that?
Yeah.
Well, the thing with Gafford is, I'm sorry, Tim. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
Tim, go ahead.
All right, I'll jump in real quick, then you can go. Yeah, and I like Garrett Temple a lot as a player. I've kind of admired how well he's played through the years in the league. But when the Bulls acquired him with Valentine and Hutchinson already on the roster, and again, I know those 2 are still in development or not as proven as Temple, but I thought it kind of overloaded the Bulls at that position. And one other player we didn't talk about on the roster that's a 2-way player is Devin Dotson from Kansas, which I'm hoping Maurice Cheeks has taken him under his wing because he showed some signs at Kansas. Kansas was a number 1 seed, probably going to make a pretty good run in the NCAA tournament last year with him as their point guard. Again, he's not ready now, but with someone like Maurice Cheeks, who's more a senior level, kind of like John and I, Fred. But tap into that wisdom. Tap into that wisdom from Mo Cheeks.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, where's the love for Daniel Gafford? I don't know, what else he's got to. The guy is, I mean, what is he, 6'9", 6'10". I mean, those don't fall off trees. You know, he's got energy. He plays hard. He doesn't always make the best decisions in many cases right now, but he's only in his second year right now. But, you know, if I've got a guy like that on the bench, you know, I'm going to find a way to use him. Every time he comes in the game, there's energy. Something happens. Now, sometimes something bad happens, right? But I just like what he brings to the table. And again, those kind of guys, you know, 6'9", 6'10", are tough to find. And I think you got to find a way to fit him in.
Good. I
agree. He's an NBA athlete for sure. And, you know, really runs the floor tremendously. And when you got guys like Kobe and Zach pushing it, I think he's a great guy to have on the floor in those situations.
I mean, he's a highlight film in those situations. You know, he's coming down and he's dunking it right in your face every time.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely endeared himself with a large percentage of the fan base. I mean, there was talk about him from, I think, 30% of the fan base wanted him to start ahead of Wendell Carter Jr., which I thought was, you know, insane.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
that was insane. I heard that on the last episode, and I was like, that. How is that even a question, right?
Nah.
Like that makes no sense. Like he is what he is. He like I agree with John and Tim. I think he's great off the bench. He's a great energy guy. You know, I don't think he's a starter in this league by any means, in my opinion, from what I've seen. Along with, you know, like I think the Bulls actually fell in love with him more and more. People forget, like we played Luke Cornett last year for like in the beginning of the season for quite some stretch. It made Gafford look so much better at that point too, because of how bad Luke Cornett is. Right? We're just like, why are we playing? Like, why is Boylan playing this guy? Like, what in the world is going on? Yeah. So I honestly think, you know, Daniel Gafford is perfect in his role, and I think he's a great backup center. You know.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake from, you know, Coach Ball Boylan to give 100 plus minutes to Luke Cornett, who was shooting at about a 20% rate from 3-point range when that's his only tangible skill. Daniel Gafford was toiling in along with Denzel Valentine with the Windy City Bulls. Just inexcusable, but you put me in a bad mood with that one, James. Coach Baldywood.
Got to bring up some pass, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So. Exactly. With that, let's end this segment. But I think the correct answer is those 10 players and Denzel Valentine will be the 10th. Let's move on to issue number 3.
Issue number 3, will the Bulls make the playoffs? As of January 14th, the Bulls are 12th in the conference, but only 2 games out of the 5th seed. They are only a half a game out of the final playoff spot. Do you feel the season will end with the Bulls as a playoff team?
Let's start out with you, James, on this one.
Yeah, so that was actually going to be my question. So, with the new playoff format, I think we're going to be right around that 10th spot, to be honest. You know, with our team rankings, we're 116 points, 0.1 points per game. We're 6th in the NBA, which is a phenomenal. I didn't expect this high of a ranking, but you know, I knew that we would be really, really good offensively coming into the season. Where it's been very, very disappointing are two aspects. Our rebounds per game, 43.4, which is 23rd in the NBA, and then our 17 turnovers per game, which is 30. Because we are so poor on defense, I think our defense rating is our points per game allowed is 121, which is 28th in the league. We need the ball as much as possible, which means we need to grab mostly every majority of all the rebounds, loose balls, and not turn the ball over, right? That way we can have more offensive possessions. We have the ball more, and we'll be able to win games. I think we're losing these close games, especially on the road, because we're not able to rebound, and we're turning the ball way too much. Ultimately, we're not going to win games because we can't stop the other team. We're just not. Our team is not built for it. Wendell Carter is averaging, I think. It's been like Wendell Carter has been good, but also kind of disappointing in my opinion. He's only averaging 7.8 rebounds per game. He averaged 9.4 last year, along with having 0.5 blocks per game. I think he needs to have over 1 block per game, along with, and, you know, just being a defensive presence. You know, help defense has been pretty poor, I would say, along with his rebounding has been kind of poor. It's like if we're not going to be a
I got to disagree with you on that one, James. I think he's our best rebounder, and I don't even think
he is. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you can't be averaging 7.8 rebounds per game being our best rebounder. He's by far our best rebounder. If you saw him last year, if you saw him in his rookie year, I feel like he's kind of digressed on grabbing boards and box, like being able to predict where the ball is coming off the rim. So
he's rounded into form, though. He's definitely playing better.
No, he's been great. He's been great in the sense of like offensive efficiency. But again, if we're averaging 43.4 rebounds per game, 23rd in the league, and Wendell being our best rebounder on our team, and you saying that 7.8 rebounds per game is not going to cut it, in my opinion. This is not.
John.
Yeah. So, well, with respect to, I understand James's point about Wendell Carter. I have noticed a lot of times when they're running that screen roll, he's electing to shoot off that screen roll also, which kind of takes him out of position for rebounding. So that may have some, because his jumper from that elbow has become a lot better than it has been, and it's going to make it more dangerous on the screen roll going to the basket. But that being said, to your original question, Fred, when you start to look at the East, other than those top four teams, and Brooklyn's not in the top four right now, but I'm sure they will be. Other than that, I'm not sure that anybody really scares me right now, because we have a team with the Bulls that actually competes. We haven't seen that in the last few years. I mean, they compete, they play hard, and they're only going to get better throughout the season. And so I'm feeling pretty confident right now that we should be in the playoffs. Just by virtue, somewhere along the line during the season, we're going to beat teams we're not supposed to beat because of our ability to compete hard during the game. And I think that's going to only intensify as we move through the season.
Great. Yeah. And, keep in mind, the Bulls are 12th right now in the East as of this recording, which is on a Tuesday evening, without all the final scores coming in. But they're only 3.5 games out of first in the East.
Yeah.
They're only 2 games out of the 5th seed, who's currently the Magic at 6-5. Bulls are 4-7 after a West Coast trip in which they went 1-3 and played much better than most people expected. But right now they are out of the playoffs. If the season ended today, they would be behind. I'll run through the top 10 in the East right now. The Celtics, the 76ers, the Bucks are the 3rd seed. The Pacers, Magic are 5, Hornets 6, playing much better than anyone expected. The Nets are 7 at 6-6, and the Hawks are 8 at 5-5. The Knicks are 5-6 and falling like a stone. The Heat are 10, and they will at 4-5, and the Cavs are ahead of them at 5-7. I expect the Bulls to finish the season ahead of the Knicks, and I can't imagine that the Magic and the Hornets are going to continue to play at a 6-5, type of 545 winning percentage. So I expect the Bulls to hopefully be ahead of both those teams and to be one of the top 10 teams in the league. Tim,
That's exactly what I thought too, Fred. Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Tim? Tim, did we lose you?
Yeah, the standings are pretty bunched up right now, but I think I'm kind of with the consensus here that I think they'll sneak into either the 10th or 9th slot. And there's a couple reasons why I think that. One is I have a lot of confidence and faith in Billy Donovan and how he develops players and develops teams over the course of a season. I think back to OKC after they traded Paul George. He picked up Gallinari, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Took a little while for them to find their stride, but as you recall, OKC made quite a run. When I think most people thought when Paul George was gone, and Westbrook was gone, that would be the end of them, right? Or
Yep.
at least have playoff aspirations. And not only are they in the playoffs, but they were dangerous. Not a team you wanted to play. So kind of that confidence in Billy Donovan. The other thing is, I think with Billy Donovan's sideline presence, I noticed in that Portland game, I thought the Bulls got a couple calls they normally wouldn't get on the road. And I think that has to be attributed somewhat to the respect Billy Donovan has from the officials. And those kind of things matter, right, in terms of late game calls and 50-50 type of calls. The thing that has to improve for sure, in my view, from the Bulls is late game decision making, shot selection, especially from Zach and Kobe. I know you don't want to put a leash on those guys because they're so explosive and so dangerous, but and hopefully, Billy Donovan, Maurice Cheeks, both former point guards and, very good players themselves, and, know how they played. So hopefully their tutelage will help those guys know how to execute wisely in late game situations, which you've watched enough games, all you guys, that it's a couple of possessions here and there in late games that really make the difference. And so having two relatively inexperienced, I know Zound for a while, but more as a two, but he's got the ball in his hands typically at the end. So I think if those things come together, which I think they will, that the Bulls can make one of those last couple playoff spots.
Yeah, so I think we're all in agreement then that by the time the season ends, you all feel that the Bulls will be a playoff team. Is there anyone who disagrees with that assessment?
Like the 9th or 10th spot, I wouldn't say, like, if it was a traditional, I would say they will be just out of it. I don't think they would. I think there's 6 for sure teams that are going to make the playoffs in the East. So
as a follow-up to this, as the last question of the nights of this edition of the Knights at the Roundball Table, does that fact that the Bulls, let's say that we get to the trade deadline and the Bulls are close, they're 8, 9, or 10, let's say, even 11 or 12, but within shouting distance of the playoffs, would you trade a veteran or even even a starter, if it's Zach or if it's Lauri Markkanen, in order to probably benefit and collect draft assets for the long-term success of the organization, with the possibility that you may be out of the playoffs? You may ruin your chance for the playoffs this year. Or do you feel it's more important that the Bulls make the playoffs this year and compete and give the team that experience to find out what it's like to compete in the playoffs? I'll start out with you, John, on this one.
I don't think you ever do anything that's going to cause you to miss the playoffs. And particularly with a young team like we have. We finally got some veterans. That was one of our biggest problems. But anytime you can give a WCJ and those kinds of guys, even Patrick Williams, a taste of what that means, because the playoff, as we all know, playoff intensity is an entirely different situation. I mean, it's another level altogether. And I just don't think you make moves, even though you have to do things for the long term. I just don't think you make moves that, if you're right on the cusp of the playoffs, I think that playoff experience can be just as valuable as perhaps picking up another player. And how often, and when was the last time we saw the playoffs? I mean,
2017, exactly, when we were up 2-0 on the Celtics. I agree 100%, John. I agree 100%. I think the playoff experience is extremely valuable for every one of these guys. Our starters are all, for the most part, when Lauri's healthy, are all 25 and under, and none of them have experienced the playoffs yet.
Exactly.
Tim, do you agree? Tim, are you in agreement on this?
Yeah, I agree. You stay with this core group of guys. We just talked about how, there's potentially 12 guys that could be considered rotation players in the league just on the Bulls roster. Right? So I would think with that kind of depth and let's call it talent, right? Because if there's 12 guys on a roster that we all think are in consideration for rotation minutes, that's a pretty solid collection of players. So I would say, and especially with all the uncertainty with games getting canceled and kind of a very disjointed season, let's keep this core, give Karnisovas in the front office and Billy and his staff a chance to develop them. If they were just gaping holes of lack of talent, I would have a different opinion on it. But there's some talented players on this roster, and I guess some credit to Pax and Gar for, it all didn't come together in the last 12 months, right? So some credit for them, having an eye for some talent to put together. But I say now that we have a better coaching staff in place and a good young core, let's give it a chance to grow.
Yeah, drafting was really never the issue with those guys. It was some of the other issues surrounding the team with free agency and such. And definitely picking a head coach with the last iteration or last choice they made. James, what do you say to this question?
I would have to be right on line with you guys. With John and Tim. I think you don't trade playoff experience for anything else. Playoff experience. I think that a testament to the lack of experience is showing you why we can't close out close games. And I think having that playoff experience will really, really help mentally with these younger players. And I really believe that keeping the core, just like Tim said, would be strong, because Zach can't be he is our best player right now, but he can't be our best player if we're gonna want to be a deep playoff team in the long haul, right? But because of the pleasant surprise that Patrick is showing, I honestly believe, it's really early to tell, but what I've seen in the offseason after we drafted him, what I've seen in the beginning of the first 11 games is, he really has a lot of potential. He really is a two-way player. He really, I think he has a lot of Kawhi-esque, characteristics and talent. So I think it's ultimately,
I agree.
is he going to get to Kawhi Leonard? I really don't know. I mean, that's the ideal situation, right? That's the best case scenario. But even if he can get to a B plus Kawhi Leonard, that is still a number one or number two option on a franchise team. So I really believe that I would like to see the offense run through Patrick more as the season goes on, as he gains a little bit more confidence and he gets acclimated with his role. But I've been really, really impressed with Patrick Williams, to be honest. And I think that's the reason why I wouldn't trade anybody for now, because he can turn out to be someone that could be a franchise player, in my opinion.
I got to disagree a little bit. I think the fact that there are 12 guys that could be in your rotation makes it more likely you should make a trade. And that, Sato specifically, to me, is a perfect fit with the Brooklyn Nets. They need some help there with the season-ending injury to Spencer Dinwiddie. I think there's a trade there, and I think that we should be willing to we should be able to garner a late first-round pick, potentially the Nets pick, for Sato and maybe another asset, another player, maybe Denzel Valentine. It breaks my heart to say it, but I think you could potentially package those two players to a team like Brooklyn or any contender.
Did you say Sato and
who?
Denzel for Spencer Dinwiddie?
No, not for.
I was gonna say. I was like, I don't think the Nets would ever do that.
First of all, I don't think you're going to get more than 2 rolls of tape for Sato on the market anyway. So it doesn't matter.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, I don't know who's going to be taking the Denzel Sato trade.
Yeah, he works for us, but I don't know that he's worth all of that on the open market.
Again, he was god awful on the Washington Wizards. God awful.
Yeah. So Thaddeus Young absolutely could garner a late first round pick because he can guard. In the Eastern Conference, he can guard Giannis. He can give you some minutes on Giannis. And in the Western Conference, he can give you some minutes on LeBron. So some team that's a contender could absolutely use Thad Young. And if they're a contender, they're going to have a late first-round pick that I think they'd be willing to give up for him.
So you're looking for draft picks with these trades instead of
that's what I mean. You're trying to get to – do you sacrifice – the possibility you may miss the playoffs by taking one of these valuable rotation players and sending them away for draft capital. In this draft, it's that good, and I think the Bulls are deep enough that you could send one of these players. I'd like it to be Sato. Thad's probably the guy I'd least like to send away. But, if you move Thad or if you move Sato, there's a guy behind him that I think could more than capably move up into the rotation and take a spot. I don't the one I least like to trade though. I love that kid. I love that guy.
To me, Fred, though, I would have to say with the draft picks, we built our team on draft picks. Obviously, we had some free agent signings, but our main core is off. Obviously, it was a hard draft pick. We were number 7 or the middle of the lottery most times than not. So it's a very, very tough position to draft. But ultimately, Tim said, John and Garpax did a great job in a sense of scouting talent in that position. But I would honestly say I would much rather see if we're gonna make a trade than a draft pick, because we have such a young core, is bringing a veteran like Kyle Lowry in, right? Someone like that I feel would be such a benefit, more of a benefit to this team than a draft pick, because we have so many young players right now. I don't know if we have a lot of talent. We just need it to come together at this point, right? So I don't think we need to search for more talent. Besides the point guard position, I think Kobe White's more of a Lou Williams type-esque player, to be honest. I think he can come off the bench, be a high-volume scorer, let him loose for 24 minutes a game. But I just don't see him being our main focal point guard.
He's a starter. He's 20 years old. He's averaging, I think he's playing at a real high level. I hear this a lot that he's Lou Williams type. He's better than Lou Williams.
He is. I'm not saying that, but like I don't think he can like. I just don't see him and Zach working as a backcourt. Like what I'm talking about is our Chicago Bulls team.
That's still debatable. But I think the early reviews of it's still unclear to me. We've had some really good games with those two together in the backcourt, and they've had some bad games.
We had some good games last year as well.
Well, we didn't have Maurice Cheeks.
Yeah,
we didn't have Maurice Cheeks last year.
Right.
They only started point guard.
Yeah. And they didn't really play together that much, unfortunately, last year. There's definitely not in the starting lineup. I mean, I don't think they did once because the only time Kobe started, I think Zach was out. But to wrap this up, guys, thank you for another exciting edition of the Knights of the Roundball Table. Any final parting thoughts that you want to share with us as we look forward to this exciting bowl season? Tim, we'll start out with you, and then we'll go around.
Sure. Well, I just had a quick question to the group, and you're a little closer to it than me in Chicago, but we've all been pleasantly surprised, and that's putting it mildly, about how well Patrick Williams has played. Who in the Bulls front office or scouting team, kind of has taken credit for finding him, right? Because coming out of Florida State, I was shocked he was selected when he was, and I've been continually stunned how well he's playing. So somebody must have seen something. I don't know. Has anybody raised their hand in the Bulls front office that said, "Yeah, I saw that"? Do we know?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything of that nature, but I can say that he was the sixth man, and all around basketball circles, or at least everyone that I have talked to that would pay attention to that kind of thing or have knowledge of that, they all really liked him. And the other part of it is, he's from a basketball family. His father and his mom. I mean, he grew up in the game, and you see that in the way that he plays now. He's never phased. He's never out of place. So he wasn't as much of a secret as he was a secret to the general public, but he really wasn't a secret on the insider level.
That's what I was going to say. I think a lot of front offices really loved the. I know San Antonio loved Patrick Williams, so I know that for sure. I know that was a fact. I think the Bulls were aware of it because as well. But yeah, I have to credit the hiring of Arturas. I don't even know how to really pronounce his name, but from the Denver Nuggets. He's the one that drafted Jamal Murray, Jokic, and Jokic was the last very late first rounder. So I think he has a knack to see talent. I think that's why we hired him, and I think it's going to be I have a lot of confidence in our front office moving forward from this point. So especially with the draft that they did with P-Roll.
Yeah, Arturas gets all the credit for that one. I was very public in my desire for us to acquire Isaac Okoro. There's a lot of time between now until their careers are over. Isaac's been absolutely fantastic for Cleveland, playing 36 plus minutes, being a defensive force for that team. There's a lot of good rookies. Like Ball's played much better. Halliburton's been. That was the one.
I was going to say I want a Halliburton. If we can get trade for Halliburton, please. I would love him on our team for sure.
But regardless, I think all of us are ecstatic in Patrick Williams. I mean, you can't deny this kid has impressed the heck out of me on both sides of the ball. He seems like he's a good kid. That's something too. Also, I like. He's just such a. It's obviously he's just a genuinely nice kid, and I wish him the best. And I think we're all excited about the potential for him because he's definitely been impressed me and playing. He's going to make an all-rookie team, either first or second team, no doubt, if he keeps it up the way he's performed so far this year.
I love that he's not scared. He does not look fazed by the moment at all. My father used to have a saying, if you're scared, call the police. And he's not looking for the phone. He's like, who is it? LeBron? Okay, I'm here. Kawhi, I'm here. And I love that about him. I just absolutely love it.
His defense on this West Coast trip has been incredible. He's been given those assignments, handled it. And that was a big question. Can he guard threes in the league? And I personally didn't think he could. I thought he was more of a natural four. I think he could guard any four in the league, but he's proven me wrong. I think he's clearly been able to play threes extremely well. And what a versatile young incredible forward that we got here with Arturas. A+ for that draft pick. So
I believe he played point guard in high school, like his early years in high school.
He hit the ball well. He shot it. Mm-hmm. He virtually every skill outside of rebounding he's impressed me He's just absolutely exceeded expectations in everything outside of rebounding. And I think his rebounding is on the way up too.
Yep.
Guys, with that, Steven, let's thank our producer, Steven Johnson.
Steven!
You did a fantastic job again tonight. Thank you so much. And I got to, again, thank you, James Kim,
Thank you.
John Watson, and the basketball historian, Tim Gallagher. Guys, thank you for joining this episode of Nights at Roundball Table. I call, what's the word for when you cancel a meeting, or call it
Adjourn.
Thank you. I adjourn the Nights at the Roundball Table meeting.
Come on, Fred. I thought age makes you wise. Come on. I thought age makes you wise.
It also makes you have a mental laugh.
Yeah.
Which happened right there. So thanks, guys. It was great talking to you guys, and
Awesome.
thanks
Thank
to everyone who's listening. Oh, before we go, where can they find you on the internet? Tim, let's start out with you and tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the auctions.
Sure.
Tim.
Well, I have a daily post from my basketball collection, 50-year plus of collecting basketball autographs and memorabilia. So on Twitter, it's at TimGal13. So at signed TIMGALL13. As Fred knows, last fall I started to work at SCP Auctions. SCP stands for Sports Cards Plus. An auction house in Southern California that's been around for about 40 years. We deal in sports memorabilia. Actually, our next auction, which is going to launch March 17th, we've got some beautiful Bulls game-worn jerseys. We've got a Wendell Carter Jr. We've got a Zach LaVine. We've got some former Bulls game-worn signed jerseys, Rondo, Noah, Lou Alding, all-star jersey. We've got a Jimmy Butler on its way. A lot of other sports memorabilia, too, but I invite you to check it out. And if you like the history of the game and the obscure players as well as the stars, check out my daily posts. Thanks, Fred.
Great. Yeah.
Awesome.
John, where can everybody find you?
Find me on Twitter at JWatt Jr., JWATTJR. Same thing with Instagram, on Facebook. Love to talk sports, love sports. And by the way, that father I mentioned, Tim, is from Middletown, Ohio.
Middletown, Ohio. Got it.
Oh, yeah?
James. Got a little delay there.
We played.
That's where my father's from.
Senior year of
Yeah,
high
he
school.
went to I think let's see, I'm at
Butch
5
Carter.
generations of Middletown middies of my family in Ohio.
Wow. And James, what about you? Where can everybody find you?
Yeah.
Jerry Lucas.
Yeah.
Twitter.
We got a little delay there. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah. The Twitter would be the James Kim era. And then Instagram is Jimmy.Seoul. Seoul is the capital of Korea, SEOUL. It was if I was gonna be a rapper, it would have been my rapper name back in the day. So,
That would have been hot too.
there we go. Give me Seoul, right? There we go. With the wordplay.
I like it.
wordplay.
Sounds good. Guys, thanks again for joining the show. I'm looking forward to having you on again. And let's go Bulls this week, and let's see. Hopefully, everybody stays healthy with COVID, and not just us and our families, but also the players, obviously. And everybody stay safe out there. Thanks again, Steven, for producing the show, and we'll see you all again soon.